request, please, just so that we can get through questions more quickly. Could I ask that you avoid applauding at the end of each of the candidates? I'm sure they thoroughly enjoy the applause. It's the same with boos as well, and other noises. Thank you very much indeed. We'll move on now to the second question, if we can. And the question is, there are over 2,000 food banks in the UK, including one in Home Firth. What policies would you put in place to eradicate them? And I think that's eradicate the need for them. And we'll go to Andrew, please.
Well, first of all, it's absolute disgrace that there are people who are working, who are actually going to food banks, people who work for our public services. I think we all accept that that's got to be a disgrace. It certainly wasn't happening many years ago. And I guess the reason for that, I guess, is actually looking at a lot of those people are actually supported on Working Families Tax Credit. And Working Families Tax Credit is supposed to bring people to me. And not all people are. There's often a lot of single people who don't receive that sort of support. Well, I think the Green Party is asking for, and look at something which has been implemented in a small way in various countries around the world, is the idea of a citizens' income scheme. And that idea is where everybody gets a basic income that's actually paid through a progressive taxation system. And it's an idea which is building. Because we all find ourselves all the time finding things about benefit traps and people trying to find ways of getting out of that. And you find people who are actually victimised, basically, because they're in receipt of benefits. And life's made incredibly difficult for them. And actually vilified in the press for simply being poor, which is appalling. So if we're going to become a more united society, we've got to find a way of actually dealing with that. And that's why the citizens' income scheme is such an attractive idea, and I suggest that people actually have a look at that. Because it's a way that everybody will have a basic right to a basic living. And that's important. It's an interesting idea, and I think it's something which has time to come. Thank you.
I would love a situation where we didn't have food banks. They have been used as a bit of a political football, but I've actually spent time with our local food banks. A few weeks ago I spent a whole morning with the Welcome Centre in Huddersfield, which I've been to before, and I was interested to find out the usage stats, and it actually started towards the end of the last Labour government. A lot more people now are aware of the service that they provide. Wonderful volunteers putting in a lot of time, a lot of local companies donating items towards them as well. Looking at the statistics of usage, the vast majority of percentage use is maybe just 1 or 2 times, but for me that's 1 or 2 times too much. And I think long term, if we're going to get to a situation where people don't have to use food banks, we need to focus our economy on getting people into well-paid work, whether that's full-time work or good quality apprenticeships. And I'm pleased that under the Conservatives we are making work pay. So now people can earn up to £12,500 with no income tax. And we've also brought in the national living wage as well, bringing up wage levels. There is always still more to do, but I think we're on the right track. And long term, if we're going to take people out of the situation where they have to use our local food banks, we need to get people into good quality local jobs, and that means supporting the economy and not hammering businesses with more taxes.
Thank you. If we can have the poll, please.
Thank you. First of all, we need to build an economy that works for everybody, creating jobs and opportunities that exists for everybody, building a fairer wage. I don't believe that we should have a society where food banks exist, where there's homelessness, and certainly we're not going forward. We've taken a step back. The 12,000 which Jason referred to is something that the Lib Dems did in coalition, increasing the tax-free allowance, which is something which is a good thing. But there's an awful lot more to do. Food banks are now seen as a part of everyday life for some people who are working, and that's absolutely wrong, and that needs to be addressed first and foremost. It should not become part of what we do, and when you're working, the job should be there shouldn't be 0 hours contracts, which put people into severe difficulties and create problems, and the Conservatives have a lot to answer for, because our economy is certainly not thriving. There's nurses, people in public services having to use food banks. That is not a fair society for everybody. Thank you.
Adela.
Well, we're the 5th richest country on the earth. The fact we need and use food banks is obscene, in my opinion. 60% of families who are in work are on the poverty line. That data is obscene. Nurses are using food banks. We have students who are using food banks. I find the whole idea of saying, oh, some people use them, and Jason's comment about they use them now and again, it's not regular. Who is this they? Who are they? It makes me angry, because this manifesto of Labour's, it says on the front, and it does what it says on the tin, and it's costed, and it's for the many, not the few. I find the fact that whether it's in Home Firth or whatever, that people are going to food banks. If you've seen the film I, Daniel Blake, and you just have to mention anybody who's seen that film, you talk about the girl going to the food bank with her children and going around the humiliation of having to get toiletries. I will never forget that scene in that film, because that's everyday life for some people, and it's everyday life for people who are also working. They're not skivers, they're not scroungers, they're real people. They're our neighbours and they're our citizens, and I think it's disgraceful, and that's why I'm standing here before you, and that's why I want to be your MP, because this needs to end now.